We are ANN, and this is Planet Talk.
I wanted to just honor the life of Eddie Van Halen. Take a few minutes. We'll be talking more about him when we get to those sections in the slideshows. So, Eddie Van Halen, born in 1955. He died a couple of weeks ago. I think most of you have listened to some Van Halen on the radio, and maybe are there any people here that would consider themselves major fans of Van Halen? Yeah, Stephanie? And some of the younger folks, maybe not so much. Whoops. Any speculation on his chart just off the bat? Well, here is his chart. So this is Eddie Van Halen, January 1955. The most interesting part of his chart, I would say, is this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. Part of 1954 and 1955, you'll meet many people that have this in square with Neptune. It was essentially the Uranus-Neptune square of the 1950s, the entire 1950s. I think from maybe 51 on, Uranus square Neptune. And this was a generation that then in the 60s had access to psychedelics and were able to enter holotropic and psychedelic states at a very early age, sometimes earlier than they were ready to. Uranus Neptune in general represents the ability to leave the waking consciousness and go on journeys into the transpersonal realms. Now, that in the middle of the 50s, end of 54 through 55, Jupiter lined up with the Uranus Neptune, and we know that those are moments of climax, crescendos in these outer planet cycles. I've known a number of people that were born with this Jupiter-Uranus square Neptune, 90 degrees, and I'm sure there were plenty of stockbrokers out there wearing suits and Republicans and other different kinds of people. But the people that I know in my communities that were born just have an unusual buoyancy, a lightness, a kind of a celebrated eccentricity, a sense of optimism and idealism. We'll get another picture of Eddie. He had always this irrepressible grin on his face as one of his qualities. I mean, a genuinely happy man. And he was apparently very generous. He shared, he opened his home to people that were in need of a place to stay, friends and friends of friends and so on. Just that smile was quite amazing. And a big, bright, buoyant smile is very frequent with Jupiter-Neptune aspects. This sense of safety, all is well. They feel it inside them and it wells out and they convey it to the world. When you see someone with a really big, bright smile that involves their whole face, there's a good chance there's Jupiter-Neptune. Now, the Jupiter-Uranus, to me, is connected with his technical virtuosity. Remember, Uranus, Prometheus is connected with breakthroughs, innovations, inventiveness. He's known for a number of technical innovations. He combined different guitars, and he was always taking pieces out and adding pieces. And the design on his guitar was something new. Was very kind of an innovation. His use of hammering of the keys, he didn't invent it, but he discovered it independently. And he would change hands and just no one had used that to that degree. Now it's very interesting. Eddie was born with Saturn trine that Jupiter-Uranus. And he says that a lot of his innovations happened because they were poor and he couldn't afford the pedals, wah-wah pedals and shift pedals and so on. And so we had to learn to do it on the guitar. And that is a classic manifestation of Saturn, Uranus. Necessity is the mother of invention. They came from Indonesia when he was, I think, in grade 1 or something like that. His mother was Indonesian, became Indonesian American, and his dad Dutch. And one other thing, yeah. So his son is in opposition with this Jupiter Uranus, and I think this is an example where Rick's wider orbs, really justify themselves. He owned that Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune. I mean, it's in square with Neptune too. That's 7 degrees square. The sun oppositions are within the 15 degrees that you would use for the sun, because the sun is such a strong point in the chart, the sun and moon. So he conveyed that kind of high flying Icarus energy of Jupiter, Uranus, the rebel hero, the guitar god, the kind of rock star persona. Yeah. Any thoughts or comments?
One thing, his Neptune is it conjunct with his ascendant?
Yes.
So does that have anything to do with, like, I mean, he also was known for substance use, which he changed later in life. Does that Neptune and his ascendant have anything to do with that?
I don't know if you would find a statistical correlation, but Neptune is the craving of the alcoholic or drug addict, right? We crave Neptunian unit of state, so it certainly indicates that he would have been partway there already, close enough that the drugs and alcohol may have seemed like a way to kind of blur the waking consciousness and enter into those states. Yeah. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, there are a couple other aspects in there that I see kind of supporting his technical mastery. So that trine from Saturn to the Jupiter Uranus, like somebody who can do the work. Like that's one of the things that I've always thought about him, is like, in spite of that kind of irrepressible kind of party animal type of vibe that he had, like, that was a guy who could practice for hours and hours and hours, and then there's the inconjunct from Jupiter Uranus to Mercury also,
Right.
and the Mercury Moon conjunction.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Alex. Mercury is connected with virtuosity, right, with the fingers, and that both of those would fit that. Yes. Yeah. So thank you, Eddie Van Halen. There was a period from about 2002 till around 2004, I had Neptune opposition my natal Uranus, and I was doing mini sessions, and I had some incredible breakthroughs and mystical experiences. And I listened to the radio. That was my music. Rock and roll radio on 100.3 the Q. And whenever Van Halen came on, these were like high points in my evening. I would always start around 11 p.m., go till about 3 a.m. And, they were, to me, I think they're the greatest rock band of all time. I mean, I wouldn't say they're the best band, or they're not the most popular band, but in terms of rock and roll, I think they reached a kind of soaring crescendo that I deeply appreciate. I also loved it during that time, AC/DC, Guns N' Roses, of course, anything by the Stones, Beatles, and so on. Okay, now I can't resist looking at David Lee Roth while we're on the subject. So he was the first singer with Van Halen for 11 years. And here's a good picture of him. This is Eddie Van Halen's brother, Tommy, the drummer. And this really conveys certain qualities about David Lee Roth. Okay, here's David Lee Roth, born, within a year of Eddie Van Halen. So he also has the Jupiter Uranus. Okay, I gotta get rid of this. Also born with that buoyant, irrepressible Icarus, Jupiter-Uranus energy. Alex, go ahead. What do you see there? Anything stand out?
Well, I see the opposition to Mars. Yeah, the opposition to Mars. So there's a little bit more of a kind of to it, right?
Right.
Yeah, which just just from that picture, you know, that previous picture, kind of. Yeah, because there's also kind of you know, also like the sexual thing with him, like that kind of forceful kind of sexuality.
Yeah.
And then the trine, really close trine to Venus also,
Right.
kind of bringing in that more kind of feminine side. So
Yeah. Beautiful. These are the major points I saw as well. Mars definitely gives that Jupiter-Uranus kind of a point, a direction. He did somersaults on stage, incredible athleticism, more than anyone else that in rock and roll, you know, that I know of, like other than just hired gymnasts. And this sort of Dionysian chthonic potency. I mean, he's just the classic lead singer, right? Like Robert Plant had that kind of vibe too, right? Like if anyone was crying out to be cloned for sort of gigolo service around the world, it's a guy like that. And it's very interesting that, as Alex pointed out, that plutonic depth and potency and charisma was inflected by the feminine. So the trine to Venus. He often wore necklaces. It's very interesting, and he had these like full lips and this sort of beautiful hair and everything. And the Venus Pluto is in a grand trine with the moon. You know, so that moon Venus is like very cute, feminine, sweet energy, and then supercharged potency from this Pluto grand trine. He's quite a remarkable musician. So considered one of the greatest guitar players of all time and one of the most influential technical, you know, virtuosos of all time. He also played keyboard, and I was astounded when I realized that he was the one playing that famous keyboard riff from Jump as well. And when they did it live, he would swing his guitar around his back and play the keyboard and then swing that guitar back. Pretty amazing.